It's the morning news.
David Lance, Jackson, and you at 972-5481. So, many of you know because we've had her and her various projects on the radio before. My sister-in-law, Shannon Love, is a foster parent, part of an organization called Fostering Change. She's worked with Representative Tom Dent and Representative Gina Mossbrucker on a number of projects trying to do better by foster kids in our state, and trying to see that foster parents who, in many instances, put in a lot of years and a lot of time and love, and then really aren't included in the equation of final determinations, that input is valued, on and on and on. But in all things, caring for kids, my sister-in-law Shannon is a lioness, man. She's something else. Well, she gave me a call last night and said, Dave, there's this guy you got to meet. His name's Ray Deck, and he's in town, and he's talking about Skookum House. Here, click, click, click. Texted me a bunch of stuff and said, you got to talk to this guy because this could be coming to Yakima, and this would be amazing. So, first of all, she catches me when I'm half asleep so that she knows she can prey upon my vulnerabilities. She can always play the, well, you married my sister card. There is that too. But I believe in and respect Shannon. So when she says we need to have a conversation about this, I'm on it. I said, your wish is my command. So in our studio is a gentleman by the name of Ray Deck. Ray, good morning. How are you?
Morning. Thanks for having me.
So I saw you on YouTube, and we're here to talk about Skookum House. For those who don't know, give us a little rundown on the history of Skookum House, how long it's been around, and what it does.
Absolutely, yeah. So Skookum House is an emergency assessment center. It's a place where kids who are coming from an unsafe situation, they've been abused or neglected, and it's likely they will be abused or neglected again. Law enforcement, CPS step in, remove them from that situation, and then where do they go? Well, eventually they're going to head toward a foster home, but those removals are a lot of times made in the middle of the night, on weekends, really inconvenient times and days to locate the right foster home. So before we go looking for a foster home, those kids come stay with us for about a week. We get them to the doctor, help them to stabilize, help them begin to heal, learn a little more about them, which then puts us in a much better situation so that we know what kind of home we're looking for.
Now, you're based out of Bellingham, right?
That's right.
And the first Skookum House is there, and when?
Yeah, so we just this summer celebrated our 4th anniversary of taking care of kids. So we will, just a little later this fall, cross a milestone of 600 children who have come to stay there in that time.
Think about that for just a second, okay? It's an emergency situation. That's how it is that the police and Child Protective Services could get involved. They need to get them out now. You're right. You don't necessarily have a background or a dossier on these kids at this point. Maybe you do. Maybe it's a follow-up. Maybe it's not, though. Maybe you don't really know this situation. So now the kid's coming out for their safety.
Right.
But oftentimes the kids, all they know is what they've lived to that point.
Right.
And while it's maybe brutal and bad, that's what they know. It's their world. So even though the move is for safety, it can be a very frightening thing, as much as it is a relief thing, depending on the circumstance. So before you just plunk that child and say, hey, I've got the Smith family over here. They're nice folks. Maybe they'd be willing to, shelter this child for a little while. What you guys decided to do was to have a more formalized, structured, and yet still loving, caring, supporting kind of environment so those kids can get assessed. Basically what you're doing is you're buying time to make the right placement for the child and to find the right family fit and all of that. Is that a fair assessment?
You got it. Exactly right. We find ourselves caring for a lot of John Does and Jane Does.
Yeah.
Kids who, imagine a parent swerving around on the freeway in the middle of the night, state trooper pulls them over, parents going to jail, uncooperative, and there's 2 kids in the back seat who are too young to be speaking, don't know the children's ages exactly, what they're allergic to, their full names. So kids like that, imagine calling a situation like that, trying to find a foster home for those kids.
Yeah, we'll take the unknown.
Yeah, right. Well, and Skookum House is uniquely equipped to care for kids like that. We had a kid, actually, almost that exact same situation, who came to stay with us at Skookum House. It's probably been about a year ago, and he somewhere along the way, he realized we didn't know what his name was, and he found that to be very, very funny. And so we were asking him, trying every which way, asking him questions, trying to get him to tell us his name, and he would do the toddler gibberish stuff,
Yeah.
But when he realized we didn't know his real name and thought that was really funny, we'd ask him, what should we call you? And he'd say, oh, my name's Batman.
Batman.
And it might have been related to the fact that we gave him a Batman shirt when he arrived, but he went by Batman all week when he was with us. And we tried every which way. He would start telling a story, and then he would get to the place in the story where he was going to need to say his own name. And then suddenly the story was about his friend. He was a very clever kid and just a delight. We loved having him there.
So how long do they stay when they come to Skookum House?
Usually about a week. So the rule, so it's the license type that we hold, the type of facility it is, says that kids can be with us for 72 hours, not counting weekends and holidays. So most common is, kids arriving after close of business on a Friday,
Yeah.
and then they're with us all weekend, and then Monday morning the clock starts, and they're with us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we clean the house and change the linens and fluff the pillows and get all ready to go for the next batch coming in.
Gotcha. So
8:25. If you're just joining us, we are speaking to Ray Deck, and Ray, you are with Skookum House in Bellingham. You
got
can
it.
find the website at skookumkids.org. Skookumkids.org. What are the ages? Like, what's the max age here that you see?
The oldest we've ever had was 17 and a half. The youngest we've ever had was 3 days old, straight from the hospital.
Oh,
so
wow.
we get all ages. About half of the kids we care for are 24 months old and younger. So lots of very, very littles, lots of toddlers. But yeah, everything from 0 to 18.
So, and right now, what's happening with that situation you just described, where some parent is drunk or whatever for some reason taken to jail. Right now, our state troopers, our police, they're looking for foster care people, right, in the middle of the night,
Right.
with a surprise coming.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
law enforcement are working with CPS, so the
Right.
Division of Children, Youth, and Families, to locate a foster home who will answer the phone and accept a placement with lots of unknowns in the middle of the night, which is a very tough ask for
Yeah.
foster parents who have
Yeah.
already have kids in their
Yeah,
house and
yeah.
have a day job to keep. And
Yeah.
that's a really, really tough thing.
But they're kind of on the list, right, of
You got
people
it.
who are willing to do that
Right.
too. Yeah.
Right.
All right, we've got about
Incredible.
4 minutes to go in this segment. I want you to just touch base on the why you're looking at Yakima as a potential, and I assume that you
Oh, yeah.
are, right?
Oh, yeah.
What was the comparative statistics that you mentioned in your report?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a research group at the University of Washington that publishes data on child welfare, and they publish a set of reports, one on each county in Washington State, and they come out every year in the first quarter. And every year I go get them and download them. The group's called Partners for Our Children. They're really fantastic outfit, and every year I go download those reports and pore over them. And this year I noticed something pretty curious about Yakima County, which was that there's two numbers that matter a lot in child welfare. One is the rate of investigation. So the Washington State average is 15 investigations of child maltreatment per 1,000 households. In Yakima County, it's 19, so a little high.
Yep.
Investigating more instances of child maltreatment than average. The other number that matters a lot is how often are those investigations resulting in a removal. So that's the removal rate. And in Yakima, so the Washington State average is about 6, and in Yakima, the average is only 3. So that made me very curious. I kind of raised an eyebrow at that and said, "What is going on in Yakima? What do they know that I don't
Yeah,
over
the
here in
numbers are
Bellingham?"
upside down. Yeah.
Right? Why are we in Yakima County investigating more often and removing less often? Do they have some special intervention program that I don't know about? Or I got to go over and
Yeah.
ask some questions. So my first trip over here was in May, and that's the question I was asking. And I spoke to several folks who told me that, what's happening actually is in the borderline judgment call cases,
Worst case scenario.
yeah, we are choosing not to remove because we don't have
Have the
anywhere to
Wow.
put the
Wow.
kids.
We know that there's a real shortage of foster homes at this point in our state. There's reasons for that, and that's some of what Shannon and the legislature are working on to try to make the system work better for foster parents.
Oh, yeah.
But with Yakima having a higher incidence of let me check you out and fewer instances of let me get you out of there, it makes it seem like a place like Skookum House that would buy some time would be just what we would need. So a couple minutes to go. Where does your funding come from, and can the community help you guys in that regard?
Absolutely. So about 2/3 of our funding comes from individuals, churches, businesses, service clubs who decide that this is important work and should be supported. So, the average donation made to Skookum is $100. So it's lots of little gifts, a whole community rallying around and saying, we're going to do foster care differently. That's how it works. The other third comes from contracts we have with the state of Washington to do some of the things we do.
Right.
We have 3 or 4 of them now, and none of them cover the full cost of what they're intended to be. But that's it's the generosity of communities like Yakima and Ellensburg and Tri-Cities and Bellingham and Ferndale and Linden that rally around and decide, we're going to take great care of the kids who live here, and we're going to do it through Skookum Kids. That's what makes it possible.
You see this as a potential life-saving situation for some kids, don't you?
Yeah, I really do. I think, CPS investigators have a really hard job, and when you're in a situation where you're trying to make a judgment call about is it going to be better for this child to remove them from the home they know, or is it going to be better to leave them?
It's like a razor's edge you're walking on.
Boy,
right?
It is hard, and I really think if we put more options in their tool bag, we give them a place they know kids are going to be safe. We're going to make that choice a lot easier for them.
All right. So what's next then? What for you in terms of your visit to Yakima and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am at the moment. We are working on opening a Skookum House here in the valley somewhere. So what I'm doing is I'm out here 1 week a month. So I make the trip over 1 week a month. I'm here in Yakima. We have an advisory group that meets the first Tuesday night of every month at Northtown Coffee. I'd love for folks who really want to roll up their sleeves and get involved to join us and participate that way. I'd love to meet with anybody who cares to know about it more. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'll meet with anybody over coffee or beers. I'd love to chat about it. It's too many people have only an atmospheric knowledge of foster care, and a big part of what I think my role is helping to educate the community about what the needs are. So, there are lots of ways to participate. You mentioned giving. That's a natural way. There's lots of volunteering to be done. At some point, we're going to be looking for a house to put this thing in.
Gotcha. Ray Dick, I appreciate your time. I don't think this will be our last conversation.
Indeed.
As we hope to work with you as you move forward on this kind of thing. A lot of generous people in Yakima. This is the radio station for Children's Miracle Network. We care about kids around here, and when we see somebody trying to do something outside the box with a unique stopgap measure that is, buys blessed good time for both parents and kids and foster parents, it's a good thing, sir. So thanks.
Wonderful.
Thank you much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Lance Stormy has your local news right after this. You're tuned to The Source, News Talk 1280 KIT.